Are you worried for Liverpool? Really not. But we've been worried all season. Every time we've been worried. Every time we say there's a little bit of improvement, we say, oh, maybe. And then after that, it's bad again. I mean,
I don't like that term. Are you worried? I don't like that expression. It's a very English expression. You worried for? I'm not a Liverpool fan, so no, I'm not worried for them. I mean, my life doesn't change.
No. I know, but you know
if they finish mid-table, would I be worried if I was a Liverpool fan? Yes, I would be worried. I would be worried because of the background instability of having a club that's up for sale, of having all these talented executives who've left. I think this impacts not so much the veteran players because they have their big contracts, but I think it impacts some of the younger players. I think it can impact some of your signings. And what would worry me is we're seeing, I think, Klopp's inability to adjust, right? We've seen him change systems. We've seen him tweak his style of play. There obviously are major injuries, and would they be better if Virgil van Dijk and Luis Diaz had been fit all season? Sure, right? But, Virgil van Dijk was injured, was it a couple years ago and stuff?
Yeah, the whole season.
It was out for, I think what we're seeing here is seriously frayed nerves. And I go back, and it's not just Fabinho, the Robertson foul. That could have been a red too. That probably should have been a red.
They've lost a lot of confidence, you could tell.
And these are your winners. These are your veteran players. These are your 100% cast iron starters, right? And people are like, oh, it's just frustration. It's just frustration. Doesn't mean you can go and, injure somebody. So it tells, and these aren't dirty players. I don't think Fabinho is a dirty player. He's a player who's just a frame of mind. And then you start questioning a little bit, perhaps, did Klopp manage him correctly? In terms of man management, I think Klopp is the one who's under tremendous strain right now. I would hate to think that, he would even think about, all right, I've been here more than my 7 years. Maybe it's time to look somewhere else. I think that would be a huge setback for the club.
Yeah.
I do think, too, that in terms of injuries, I'm not sure that the money spent on Darwin was well spent, whether he's fit or not fit. You're buying one for the future. Again, it shows you the risks, right, with the massive transfer fees. But I also think they've really missed Luis Diaz and Jota.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like, to a level... But I'm saying is, if we talk about how the press... And again, it's a mitigating factor. It's not an excuse. Cody Gakpo in the front three, for me, I know he had some good performance when he first came. He's not a bad footballer. I don't know that he's a massive upgrade on what they have. You're maybe buying somebody projecting to the future. But that front three didn't work for me. Even when they created chances in the first half, it didn't work for me. Yeah,
Elliott, Salah, and Gakpo. I think Gakpo needs a bit of time to adapt to everything. Is so different to what he was used to. I think at PSV, they signed him because there was the setback to Luis Diaz just before, obviously, who will be out for longer now. I just don't understand how. And Klopp said after the game against Brighton, like, this is it. Our window is over. Nobody's going to come. We're not going to sign anybody else. So you go back to the midfield, which for me is the heart of the problem. Even more than Salah's form and how Salah is playing now without Firmino and without Mane, and Klopp saying, well, it's because of the coaching, because it was so well drilled that front three before. Now Salah finds himself...
He's correct.
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, of course he's correct.
He's 100% correct.
Yeah, it's correct. Although they played last season without Firmino, Firmino had been injured as well the last 2 years, and they still did well. But Mane was there, and then Jota or Luis Diaz was there. So he's right, and they have to find a way of bringing Salah back into being more decisive, a bit like he was on Sunday, but even scoring more. But the midfield surely is where the energy should have been spent on strengthening. The money should have been spent on threatening. And instead, you brought another forward. And okay, you did it because Jota and Diaz were injured. And still nothing is happening in midfield. And I don't understand. And Bajcetic is good, but he's so young. And you just think that this is where, if the midfield improves, that team is going to improve. It's pretty obvious. And I'm sure Klopp and Pep Linders see it too. And yet, nothing is done there to improve it. So what, you're going to stay with Naby Keita, who's still underwhelming, really. Thiago, who can't do everything by himself. Fabinho, who is the shadow of the Fabinho of the great years. Bajcetic is too young. And then you've got Jordan Henderson, who, by the way, It's nothing against Jordan Henderson, but I don't really like I don't rate the player certainly. This season, he's losing 38% of the ball that he recovers. So he recovers the ball, gets the ball back, and after that, 40% of that ball is lost. If you take Thiago Alcantara, for example, he's only 18. So already, if Henderson is playing, or there's a few other midfielders at Liverpool with similar stats, you recover the ball, which is what your philosophy is, and then you lose it straight away after. And you can't turn those balls into something positive, a chance, an attack, whatever it is. And that's where the problem is. And for me, for them not to have invested in midfield is just crazy.
When we look at Liverpool, do we think that we don't think they're gonna make a Champions League spot, do we? I think the percentages are very. I mean, you would need to have a serious collapse from
you've got 3 teams
either United or Newcastle
and Spurs. Because they're above them as well. So It's not just if they were fifth now, even with a 6, 7, 8 points gap, you could say, okay, maybe you can put on a run and come back. But it's not just the gap they have; is they have to overtake
two of those 3 teams.
Yeah, 3 or 4 teams ahead of them.
Yeah,
which I think is too much. Same for Chelsea.
They can make the run in Europe, and I think on a one-off in Europe, again we saw glimpses from Salah.
Yeah, their best performances have been in Champions League.
Improve, I assume.
Yeah.
Although I wonder when Darwin comes back. I'm assuming he's going to go with Darwin and Salah wide and Gakpo through the middle. Might it not make sense? Because Gakpo through the middle in this system, to me, it doesn't, like the pressing cues. I would assume it's an easier transition if he's in a wide area, no?
Yeah, maybe. Which I think is where he feels better too, to be honest. I think he can play everywhere, but left winger feels like his natural position, or certainly where he has the most bearings. But I think Darwin has been great playing on, coming off the left too.
What about playing Salah through the middle then? Given that it's kind of what he does anyway.
Yeah. But again,
in this game against Dunk and Webster and then Veltman, wouldn't that have made more sense? Maybe.
But I think maybe there's a case for Klopp to get Salah back to his best. Let's put him in the best environment for him, which is still what he knows better. He's still from the right wing coming inside onto his left foot, which I guess is where you want him to get confident. And then maybe once he's firing again, you can move him back to the center or moving again to the center. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
I also think that all those years that Salah and Mane scored so many goals with Firmino centrally, a lot of that had to do with Firmino's characteristics of dropping off, finding space, adjusting to the other two. And I'm not saying Gakpo can't do that or Darwin if he plays through the middle, but it is a big transition to make.
Massive.
So I don't know. I think these are huge next 6 months for Liverpool going forward, one way or another. And I just hope, if I were a Liverpool fan, I would just hope that Klopp remains 100% committed and says, all right, I want to help create Klopp 2.0 Liverpool with a new owner, maybe with a new technical director, new
it feels like they need one as well.
Because we are nearing year 0 here.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.